Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of Does the World Make You Feel Depressed? So today we're going to talk about how the systems of time and money were designed to work against us in our normal lives to create the feelings of depression that we all may feel on a daily basis. Now, the system of time was created and designed to trap and control each one of us into a false reality, one that can never possibly exist on our physical earth without the invention of time. So what's that mean? Well, basically it just means that the system of time itself is false. It's fictitious. It was made out of thin air, somebody's idea to control and trap human beings in. So this tells us that we should not be living in the very seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, or years that they invented, because it not only traps us in it, it also generates and collects the negative emotions from each of us that should not exist. Because, like I said, the system of time itself is false and should never exist on this earth. So, let's get back to the video with the so-called expert that the system wants us to believe in.
I'll give you a specific example of something that I think will connect, most people in this room will immediately get. So I noticed that lots of people who I know who are depressed and anxious, their depression and anxiety focuses around their work, right? So I started to look at evidence. Well, what do we know about how people feel about their work? There was this study by Gallup, the big opinion poll research for companies, a massive study. It took over a year. And it looked at how people feel about their work. And this is what it found. 13% of us, most of the time, like our jobs. 63% of us are sleepwalking through our work, so we don't like it, we don't hate it. And 24% of people hate their work, fear it and dread it. So you think about that, right? This is the thing that we do most of the time. The average person answers their first email from work at 7:48 a.m. and clocks off at 7:15 p.m. Think about that.
Now, he's talking about the time clock that the corporations control us with. Our lives are controlled in that very time clock. Every day of our lives, before we even go to work, we're awakened to the sound of our alarm clock that we ourselves are programmed to set to the designated time that we are controlled by. Most of us are waking up to go to that job because the basic things that we need to survive with in this world were never free to us. So we're forced to work at a position in one of the many corporations that they own to control us in time with. I mean, just think about it. Every day we slave away in the minutes and hours that they created just so we can collect the money that they invented for us to worship and to seek out, so we can be controlled by a calendar made from the system of time that they made to schedule all the unnatural payments that we're all forced to make each and every month of our lives. I mean, just think about that. Think about that. And you wonder why we're depressed. I mean, every day of our lives, they created this calendar to trap us in, so we can make our scheduled payments. And how many negative emotions come from those scheduled payments that we might not be able to make? I mean, imagine if you're a single mom with a couple children and you really need to feed those children over paying your rent, over paying your mortgage, or paying your car payment. Just imagine how much stress and anxiety and sadness people feel when they're put in that kind of position, and it happens all the time. Happens all the time. We feel sad most of our lives because of this calendar that schedules our unnatural payments in life. We hardly ever think about it because we think this is a normal system that we're supposed to follow. This is something that's not. I mean, we think of this system as something that's not bad for us. You know, we're supposed to thrive in this system. We're supposed to be the best we can be in this system. But what we don't realize and what they don't tell us is how much it controls us and how it's designed to control us. But not only control us, manifest the negative emotions from us. So, whether you rent, own, or just live with somebody, you're required by this system to pay for the very land and shelter that should be naturally free to you. This may cause you to feel the negative emotions and stress and anxiety, sadness or anger that we were talking about if you can't make your payments in the time you are controlled by. Not to mention all the other payments the system forces us to make, such as all the insurance for your home, insurance for your rental property, you name it, they have insurance for everything nowadays. I mean, and the insurance company is one of the major organizations that control us, really, if you think about it. You may be making a payment on a vehicle they programmed you to want over the television with the commercial, but you can't really afford it, but you buy it anyway. And then they'll get you for the insurance for that new vehicle because they tell you it's mandatory that you have it because you're making payments on it. So, they get us with just about everything. And think about the electricity. They turn that into a bill and charge you for the free electricity that the earth generates. And how about the cable bill, the gas bill, the phone bill, and all the other bills they created and get you to think that you need to survive? You can't survive without all these bills. That's what they want you to believe, so they can control you with the payments until the day your physical body perishes from the earth. So, who wouldn't be depressed in this system they designed for us? I mean, really. I mean, even the day you die is, you're still, even though your body's dead and your soul has moved on, you're still responsible for your own funeral costs. Either or the system makes you responsible, or they make your family responsible for the funeral costs after you passed on. So Yeah, who wouldn't be depressed in this system they designed for us? I mean, these so-called experts that the system puts here for us to listen to, they know all this. I mean, come on, just an average Joe like me can figure it out. Mm, tell me these people aren't smart enough to know this stuff. But let's get back and see what he has to say.
87% of us are doing something we don't want to do most of our waking lives, and you're almost twice as likely to hate your job as love your job. And I began to think, well, okay, could there be some relationship between that, the thing that's affecting what we do most of the time, and our crisis with depression and anxiety? And I learned there was a man who'd actually figured this out. He's an amazing Australian social scientist I got to interview, called Professor Michael Marmot. So I can explain how if you want. I think it's an important story. I tell it in the book, but I'll just give you the headline of what he discovered. He figured out the biggest factor, there are a few, but the biggest factor that makes work depressing, right? If you go to work and you feel you have little or no control over your work, so you're like just a machine, you are significantly more likely to become depressed. You're actually significantly more likely to have a heart attack. And when I learned that, I actually misunderstood what Michael was telling me and what his research was telling me at first. Because I thought he was saying, okay, there's some people who get to have wanky, nice jobs who are going to be happy, and then there's loads of people who are going to be condemned to miserable jobs. So I thought about my family, right?
Now, he's saying that there's a lot of people that are going to have nice jobs that are going to be happy. But I'm here to tell you, folks, I've had really nice jobs, and I've made a lot of money in this system. But I can tell you for sure that money does not buy happiness. You can buy all the things that you'll ever desire on this earth, but you'll always want more, because money will never buy you happiness. And we know why. Once you know truth, you know why. Because you're being controlled by time. You're being controlled by the very time and money that they invented to control you with. You may not realize it. You may not see it. Or you may see it and you may dismiss it because it's too crazy to think about. But it's true. Okay.
My dad was a bus driver. My mum worked in a refuge. My sister is a nurse. My brother is a delivery person. My grandmother cleaned toilets for a living. I thought, what is he just saying they're just condemned to misery? And then I kept going back to him, and he said, no, you haven't understood me. It's not the work that's depressing, it's the lack of control. So I started thinking, well, how could we change that? So I went to Baltimore and met an amazing group of people who taught me an important lesson. Meredith.
So, it's not the work, it's the lack of control. Well, you're never going to have as much control as you desire. I mean, you're always going to be controlled in the system of time that they control you in. So,
Gio was a young woman who used to go to bed every Sunday night, sick with anxiety, almost physically sick with anxiety. She had an office job, wasn't the worst office job in the world, she wasn't being bullied, but she just couldn't bear the thought that the next 40 years of her life were going to be this thing she just didn't want to do. And one day with her husband Josh, she did something bold. So Josh, since he was a teenager, had worked in bike stores in Baltimore. And you know, that's insecure, controlled work. You do what the boss tells you. In the US, it's even worse than here because you don't even have things like healthcare, right? And one day, Josh and his friends at the bike store were like, what does our boss actually do? Right? They liked their boss. He wasn't an awful person. But they were like, we fix all the bikes. So they had this idea to set up a bike store that would run differently. So instead of having a boss, it's a democratic cooperative. It's called Baltimore Bicycle Works. It's a democratic cooperative. They take all the big decisions together by voting. They share out the good tasks and the shitty tasks. They share the profits, obviously. And one of the things that fascinated me going to Baltimore Bicycle Works, which totally fitted with Professor Michael Marmot's findings, is how many of them said that in their previous work they had been depressed and anxious, But in this new way of working, their depression, they still have bad days, their depression and anxiety had largely gone away. Now, it's important to say, it's not like they quit their job fixing bikes and went to be like Beyonce's.
Now, he's trying to make you believe that if you get rid of your boss and replace them with employees, and that's very hard to do. Number one, the corporations that control you in time would never allow that because they're the only ones that control that corporation. And the corporation is controlled by the people who actually control everyone on the earth. So, pretty much what he's saying is bullshit if he thinks that most of the corporations are going to go for this co-op between employees and the owners. No. Never going to happen. It may happen with a small business, but I don't see that happening with the corporations who control us.
Backing singers, right? They fix bikes before they fix bikes now. What changed? It's the factor that causes depression. It's the control. And as Josh said to me, after reading a lot of Noam Chomsky, that there's no reason why any business should be run like this, and this is causing so much depression, right? Apart from anything else, businesses that are more democratic, according to a study by Cornell University, grow 4 times faster, partly because the workers are so much more motivated, so it's not even efficient, but more importantly, why shouldn't every corporation be a democratic cooperative? Imagine if every one of you tomorrow knew you were going into a workplace where you, with everyone around you, set the decisions and priorities, where the boss was accountable to you, so if there was something making you depressed, and a particular task that you could be shared among everyone else, where you elected your boss if it's big enough that you had to have a boss. Think about how transformative that would be for people's mental health.
Now, he does make an interesting point here because we are naturally designed to be creators. And these people that run this small business and own it together, they're creating a company. They're creating something with their own initiative. They're putting their own intention into it. It gives them a satisfaction, but even though they're still in charge, this is one of the social solutions to depression that will never work. Because, as we know, no matter who owns the companies, whether it be the employees or the corporations, you are still controlled by the time and the money that they designed to control you with. You're not getting away from it.
Now, I would argue that is an antidepressant. Anything that reduces depression should be regarded as an antidepressant, and that is one of them. I think it's one of the big ones, although I looked at many others. And one of the things that helped me to think about this was I went to interview this South African psychiatrist called Derek Summerfield, who's an amazing man. And Derek happened to be in Cambodia in the early part of this century when chemical antidepressants were first introduced there. And the Cambodian doctors didn't know what they were, right? Because they hadn't heard of them. And they said to him, what are they? And Derek explained, and they said, oh, we don't need them. We've got antidepressants. And Derek said, what do you mean? And they said, oh, well, they told him a story. There was a farmer in their community who one day had stood on a landmine in the rice fields left over by the American invasion, and his leg was blown off. And they gave him an artificial limb, and he went back to work in the rice fields, but apparently it's really painful to work underwater with an artificial limb, and I'm imagining it was pretty traumatic, because, obviously he'd been blown up there. And he just became acutely depressed, classic depression. And they said to Derek, so we gave him an antidepressant. He said, what did you do? They said, well, we went and we sat with him and we listened to him. And we saw, I'm paraphrasing, we saw what his problem was. We saw that his pain made sense. And we figured if we bought him a cow, he doesn't have to go into the water. He doesn't have to go to this place where he's traumatized. He can become a dairy farmer. So we bought him a cow.
Now, the story he's talking about doesn't make any sense, because if they talked to the man that had his leg blown off, he would more than likely tell them that he shouldn't be working in this system anymore. He shouldn't be controlled by the time and the money that they use to control him. So basically, he's depressed and he's upset about having his leg blown off in the place that he used to work at, and now he's being forced to work there his whole life until he dies. Maybe that's what's causing him the depression. But it's still not a good example because, for instance, to solve this man's depression, they bought him a cow. Now, what if everybody decided to come up and say that they wanted a cow, to start a dairy farm with, or they wanted something else is this system going to accommodate each and every one of us that feels like we don't want to be controlled by it anymore? I don't think so.
And within a few weeks his depression went away. Now, if you've been raised to think about depression the way we have, if you've been trained by your doctors the way I was to think about it, that sounds like you're taking the piss, right? A cow is an antidepressant, what are you talking about? But what those Cambodian doctors understood absolutely intuitively is what the World Health Organization has shown, what so many of the scientists I met have shown, which is that our pain and our distress makes sense. It's a response to our needs not being met. And if you want to deal with that, the most effective way to deal with that is to meet...
And our needs are not being met. Why, people? Because we've already discussed it. Because we're being controlled by the systems of what? Time and money.
People's deep underlying needs. So I'll give you an example of someone very close to here who did this. Another wonderful person I got to know, Dr. Sam Everington, co-runs a doctor's surgery called the Bromley by Bow Centre. It's in East London. It's near where I used to live. And although sadly he was never my doctor. So Sam was really uncomfortable. Loads of people were coming to him with depression and anxiety, and he would listen to their stories and he'd see they were really lonely, they were really cut off from the things that make life meaningful. And his training had told him, even though he knew the science was more sophisticated than this, tell them they've got a chemical imbalance, drug them, the end, right? Later they'd also add a little bit of CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, to the menu, but not then, not when Sam started doing this. And Sam, like me, is not opposed to chemical antidepressants. He does prescribe them. If I was a doctor, I would too.
Now, this is disgusting. I mean, it's disgusting to watch a professional just push these chemical pills that that we know cause people so much harm. It makes me sad to think about all my brothers and sisters out there that are taking these pills that harm themselves, and there's really nothing I can do about it except for try to inform people and get some good information out.
He just thought, this is not enough, this is not adequate to the scale of the problem that these people are bringing to me. So he decided to try an experiment. I'll tell you about one of the people who took part, a woman called Lisa Cunningham, who I got to know. Lisa had been shut away in her house with crippling depression and anxiety for 7 years. She'd barely left, and she ran to the shop at the end of her road to buy cat food and Ben & Jerry's, and she ran back, right? And she went to see, I can't remember if it was Sam or one of his colleagues, and they said to her, okay, we're going to keep giving you the drugs, don't worry. We're also going to prescribe for you to take part in a group. Behind the doctor's surgery backed onto a park, but between the surgery and the park, there was a patch of land that they called Dog Shit Alley, which gives you a sense of what it was like. And they said to Lisa and to her friends, to a group, not her friends, sorry, other depressed people, who later became her friends, what we want is for you guys to meet a couple of times a week. We'll come along and support you, and we want you just to turn this into something beautiful. First time she went to the meeting, Lisa was physically sick with anxiety. So were a lot of the other people in the group. But they persisted. They literally put their fingers in the soil. They knew nothing about gardening. They were from East London, right? Oh, sorry, I got a hiss there. Sorry, East London gardeners are now going to turn on me. But and and they started to teach themselves gardening. And they had something to talk about that wasn't how shit they felt. And they started to listen to each other's problems. One of the other people in the group was sleeping on the bus, the night bus. Lisa was outraged. She started phoning the council to get him a flat. She got him a flat. She was so proud of herself. It was the first thing she'd done for someone else in years. That was more powerful to her than any self-reflection. And the way Lisa and lots of the other people in the group put it is, as the garden began to bloom, they began to bloom. There was a study in Norway that found it.
Now, this is a good form of therapy. I always believe in creation as a form of therapy for depression, and this one I have to agree with, because creation itself, the earth, the soil, it's good for us to work in. It's good for us to engage in the beauty of what was created for us. Actually, we should be doing more than just working in the should be doing more than just working in a garden. We should be learning how to feed off the earth that was created for us. All the knowledge that the previous generations have gathered, that we're living before the systems of time and money were really dominant with us. They have all that information that we need. What kind of things out in nature will heal our aches and pains, and what kind of things in nature can we eat and receive nutrients from, and just basic things on how to build a fire, and actually live out in nature without the system to control us. We each need to start learning how to do that again. So if this system ever does try to control every aspect of our lives, which is coming soon, they're going to try to control everything. The more technologically advanced we get, the worse it's going to get, people. They're going to try to control everything that we do, like they don't already. But we really need to start teaching ourselves how to survive off the land that was created for us, in case we ever do just need to leave this system of control and take our families out in the wilderness, take our families out in the earth and claim the land that was created for us, so we can live on it and not be controlled by an evil system.
Move people more than twice as much on the Hamilton scale as chemical antidepressants.